I'll start off by giving you the tour of the car. You can see missing a few headlights and a bunch of trim. The car features some really cool things, like something dripped on the car here for long enough to actually make circles in the metal, which is pretty impressive. The car hasn't been on the road since 2003. It's currently 2017. You can see that there's some rust along the bottom of the fender, up around the wheel wells. Along the rocker's not bad, but then you get to the quarter panel and there's some serious rot. You can stick your fingers in this. What's strange is the inner fender is actually still all there, which is pretty rare. Along the back, you can see the bottom of the quarter is probably made out of Bondo. In the back, we're missing the taillight lenses. There's no trunk latch. I think nobody had the key for the trunk lock, so they just removed the whole latch. Inside is some miscellaneous parts. You can see the taillight lenses are back here, but they're broken. So I'm gonna have to come up with a set of those. And then over on this side, it's actually not so bad. There's some rot along the bottom, which is totally fixable with some just sheet metal. And the quarter's actually not in bad shape. There's a hole in the door. And then this fender's actually pretty good. There's some rust along the edges, but not too bad. Under the hood, we have, right now it is a Pontiac 350 with a 4-barrel carb, dual reservoir master cylinder. There's a lot of like hackery under here. You can see there's a bunch of vacuum hoses that are blocked off with bolts. There's some wires and things that aren't hooked up. Generally a sloppy mess. So I'm going to try and get this fired up today and see what happens. Inside the car, you can see there is seats, and the seats are actually in pretty good shape. The floors are not too bad for a New England car. You can see there's some holes up here right by the toe board, but actually it's not too bad. This side is actually in better shape. It's a little dark in here, so it's tough to see, but that side actually holds the water in the car, so that's not so bad. That means I can fix the water leaks and hopefully not do anything with that floor. In the back, there's a little bit more rust buried under this junk. Dashboard's pretty rough. As you can see, it's got overspray all over it. The steering column is kind of a disaster as well. It looks like somebody tried to remove the ignition with maybe an air chisel or something. The whole dash is covered in like hot glue, I think. And this doesn't actually like stay attached to the dashboard. So yeah, pretty beautiful car. Got kind of a rusty roof. So I'm gonna try and slap this thing together in a very short amount of time and see if I can do some burnouts on the quickness. So let's see how it goes. All right, I have just hooked up the battery. I just grabbed the battery from another car and shoved it in here. We're gonna hook up power to it and see what happens. Because the ignition is so screwed up, we have the neutral safety switch down here hanging from the bottom of the column. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jam a screwdriver, screwdriver. Okay, so let me try that again. I'm gonna jam this nail in this and see if it'll start. Let's see if I can hold the camera at the same time. Probably not. Let's see. Okay, that's good news. So basically, the engine turns over now. I'm pretty confident the gas tank is full of mud. So I'm just going to throw some gas in the carb and see what happens. Yep, this is a good idea. cart there and see what happens. Oh look, I opened the door and the rocker trim just fell off. So that's nice. We'll just hook it back on there. All right, now let's see if this sucker will start right up. Let's see if I'm strong enough to do it with one hand. That almost just started. Wow, that's impressive. Let's try it again. First bad news. Over here, right down there, you see the oil filter? Well, right next to it, I don't know if you can see this thing, but this is for a mechanical fuel pressure gauge, or oil pressure gauge, and there's nothing attached to it. So there's oil puking out of it. It looks like there's also some water coming out with the oil. So either I'm imagining that, or maybe the oil pan's got some water in it. Either way, I'm gonna throw a really crappy oil pressure switch on this, or oil pressure gauge on this. See what happens. All right. If this sucker doesn't fix it, I don't know what will. So anyways, we're gonna set that aside. Hopefully it stops the oil leak. And now let's crank it over again. Okay. As you can imagine, things are going wrong again. So this is the, I think it's called the neutral safety switch, but it goes on the bottom of the column. And as you know, I was jamming this nail in here and making the, basically acting as if I was controlling the ignition. And it no longer wants to turn the engine over. I don't know if it's the switch or maybe it's a bad wire. I have no idea. So I'm gonna go right to the good hackery and get the power probe out, this sucker, and I'm just gonna jam power right to the starter and do it that way so I don't have to mess around with this switch anymore. Let's do it. Okay, so that failed. This purple wire right here, I'm pretty confident is the starter wire. That's usually the case. I don't know why they make them purple, but so this purple wire goes to the starter solenoid. At least I think so. And I just fed it 12 volts and it did nothing at all. Which makes me think that maybe the wire on the other end where it meets the starter is trash. It's just strange that it was just working like 1 second ago and now it is not. So I'm gonna go explore and see if I can figure out what the heck the problem is. Alright, let's see what's next. I've now jacked up the driver's side of the Pontiac and I've shoved one of these under the tire and realized that this is one of the coolest things I ever made, and you should make one too. Actually, I have 4 of these, so I can jack up the car all the way around and just put it on these blocks. They are, looks like they're 2x10s, which is technically like 9 1/4. 4 of them stacked up on top of each other by 26 inches. And these things are, we'll say 6 inches. Actually like 5 3/4. But basically you can plop your car down on these and they're nice and jacked up. Hold on, bear with me. There we go. So yeah, the car sits on top of them and it gives you an extra, like, I don't know, we'll say, well, hold on, I have a tape measure, let's measure. Jacks up the car 6 inches or so, and that makes it way easier to slide under the car. So I'm gonna slide under there and see if I can figure out why this starter doesn't do its magic. All right, so I'm under the car, and looky here. Shifter cable, nearly touching the ground, and shifter cable's not attached to the transmission. So I'm gonna have to figure that out soon too. And then there's a couple wires, probably an oil pressure switch or something stupid. So that is some stuff that I'm gonna have to figure out. But I'm not under here for that. I'm here for that starter. So I'm gonna shove a bunch of electricity onto that starter solenoid and see if it will turn. All right, here we go, power probe. All right. Come on, starter. Do the thing. I can hear it. Oh, power probe is pissed. Oh, something. Hello. Things are happening. One more time for fun. I think maybe the starter just sucks. Oh, power probe. Be quiet. You do the thing. All right. All right, so that was a miserable failure. The battery that I was using is now dead. The carburetor is doing typical carburetor things, where it just doesn't make things work. And there is fuel going to the carburetor. The spark seems to be there. The distributor seems to be in the ballpark of the right timing, although it is loose. The gas that's in it seems to smell pretty bad, so I think that's definitely a factor. So for right now, I'm gonna call it quits for this episode, and maybe in the next episode I'll do some transmission linkage, or maybe some brakes. We'll see. See you next time.